We must pray now, brothers. Pray that he is watching.
Please, anyone, if you can hear me, if you're out there.
Attempting to acquire the Hell Priest signal.
Nearly 60% of our planet has been consumed by the invaders.
We have the Hell Priest signal locked in. The target is marked, but the signal will not hold for long.
For it is he that they fear, not man, or his armies. They feared the mark of the beast.
Alright guys, so that was the opening to Doom Eternal, obviously, and so today we're going to be reviewing Doom Eternal. We're going to be comparing it a lot to Doom 2016, so if you haven't played that, or at least seen gameplay of that, go watch that or play that, and then come back to this. But let's just start off with the good. So I didn't need to tell you this, and I'm honestly not going to spend too much time on this, but the combat is obviously going to be the best part. It's probably why you bought the game, or why you're watching this video, alright? The only reason people play this game, the majority, it's not this platforming, which we're going to talk about later. It's the combat, alright? You want to punch stuff, you want to see blood come out, you want to see it blow up, alright? This game's got it, alright? Same as 2016 combat, small changes, new equipment, you get some weapons that I won't mention, and that's another point I want to make early on, is that I'm going to try not to spoil stuff, but if you consider weapons that you get spoilers, then there's going to be spoilers. But anyways, I just want to say the combat is solid. I mean, it's what you expect. The only major difference from 2016 Doom is the ammo count is probably cut a little bit more than in half. I never really used the chainsaw in 2016 Doom, but in this you're constantly relying on the chainsaw to obtain more ammo. You're going to be constantly running out of ammo, scrambling around, trying to run away from enemies, and if that bothers you, then that might be something you want to think about before grabbing this game, because there's just a lot of ammo management that you have to do in this game, which I wasn't so great at. So next, the smaller of, I guess, the good list is the upgrade system. So I guess there's 4 primary upgrade systems. There's this rune system that you can find throughout the levels, which gives you all types of different abilities, and you can only slot 3 of them, so you have to choose the ones you like. Personally, I like the one that slows down time when you're in the air, because that's just cool, but that's me. There's armor upgrades, there's weapon upgrades, and then there's overall upgrades that just give you more health, ammo, or armor. Alright, and those all work well. You know, they're hidden enough to where you can search for them if you want the max upgrades, but not pushed tightly enough into a corner where you're not going to find them and be on the last level with no upgrades. I mean, you should have 75% of your upgrades done by the end of the game if you don't go exploring at all like I did. If you just play main story, go in a straight line, go where you need to go, then you'll get about 75% of all of the upgrades. Now, my favorite positive in this game, the best part of this for me, was the world building and the story. Alright, this is awesome, okay? And this is everywhere throughout the majority of the game. Alright, in Doom 2016, there wasn't much. They kind of started to give you a story in the last couple of levels, and then the game just ended. This one, it gives you not as much of a story as you would want, but it's there. There's more to it. You can follow where they're going with it, right? And they kind of give you a background on the character and the world and all of that. So that's just an interesting aspect that they didn't include in Doom 2016, and honestly, it was probably my favorite part, was kind of learning more about the lore behind everything. So the next section is the mix category, and there's only a couple things in here I want to talk about, and that's mainly the graphics. Alright, so in a cutscene, like the one you're seeing here, the third person kind of combined with first person's perspective that they use to show you Doom Guy or the Slayer, whatever you want to call him, looks great, right? Like, all of this looks really solid. But then I feel like there's times where in combat, right, the game looks worse graphically than Doom 2016, right? It's either the lighting on the enemies or the blood. I mean, it looks good, right? The game doesn't look bad at all, but it looks worse, I feel, than the previous game at times. Not to say that doesn't look significantly better at times like this, obviously, but I just wanted to put that out there. Another kind of mixed thing I guess you could throw in there is the platforming. If you like that kind of stuff, then cool, good for you. There's a lot of it. If you don't, it's just enough to not piss you off. At least in my experience, if they had, 1-2% more, it would have annoyed me. But it's just absent enough throughout the levels to be the perfect amount. Alright, so let's end it off talking about the bad. And there's only two things I want to talk about here, and one of them is not exactly an objective point. It's more up for interpretation and how much you played Doom 2016. But let's talk about the boss battles. I'm going to say there's 2 boss battles in this game. Alright? Now, you have mini boss battles when you fight new enemy types and stuff like that. But there's 2. There's this one, and then the final one, which I'll show in a minute. These are both very boring, I guess you could say. This first one, which is like halfway through the game, the guy does about 2 moves over and over again, and you just, hit him when the eyes flash green, and you do that for a good 10-15 minutes. I feel like the Doom 2016 fights, are significantly more memorable and are harder, alright? And that's another thing I want to talk about, is difficulty. The game isn't hard on the boss fights, right? It's harder to fight a large group of enemies than it is to fight a boss. And I feel like that's not how it should be. The bosses should be rough. You shouldn't have 16 lives on a boss, alright? You should be grinding out those lives. Okay? And so, the final boss fight kind of has a different problem than this one. Now let's look at that.
Now is the time. 2 diamonds. As it was written.
So I actually just remembered, as recording this, that there's technically 3 boss fights in this game. There's the one I've showed, this is the final one, and then one before this that was so bad that I forgot about it. And it's terrible. Like, the other one you saw was rinse and repeat, and that was the problem with that fight. You just do the same moves over and over and over, and you just memorize a move and then strike. Well, the problem with fight before this final boss fight is that it's supposed to be one of the most powerful people in the game, and they don't hit you at all. Well, I mean, they try to, but the moves are so terrible that they don't hit you ever. Alright? It's a terrible fight. Like, it's super easy. I don't think I died at all. It's just a really bad fight, alright? Compared to this one, now, I'm not saying this guy's moves are top tier, alright? He doesn't hit you much either. But at least, he swings at you, right? He tries. But if you haven't figured it out already, the problem with this fight is that there's just too much going on. Alright, I'm trying to take in this fight with this huge titan, and you got all of the hardest enemies in the game being thrown at me at the same time. There's just too much of it. Alright, this one needed to be toned down. It's not that it was hard, it was just annoying. And I know they're trying to give you ammo and health and all of that, but it's just obnoxious. Alright, so that's kind of all I have to say bug-wise with the game. I guess if you want to include that in the bad. there's a couple where enemies just disappear, but other than that, I don't really have any problems. But overall, my biggest problem is that it was too soon. Alright, like, this is dope and all, but I've still played, you know, Doom 2016 recent enough to where nothing in here was like wow, or like surprised me, or like that was a cool execution, you know. I've played Doom 2016 probably within the past year, and I've played it 5 or 6 times, so I'm to the point where we could have waited another 4-ish, a little bit before getting this game. Not to say it's a bad game, but I would definitely wait for this one to go on sale, grab it, let me know what you guys think, and Doom Eternal is going to be 7 out of 10 for me.
And you will be their savior. Your strength will be their shield, and your will their sword. You remain unbroken, for your fight is eternal.